Let's run through the hot topics now coming out of Chicago and into LA with our 30-second board. In the big picture, we'll drill down to the details, but the big picture, JT, the Lawrence brothers didn't get what they wanted in Charlotte, neither on the podium. They both win in Chicago, so a huge bounce back.
Yeah, it wasn't, and they needed to do this, right? Because they've been so great throughout all of 2023, and they really had kind of a letdown race, which I think you could understand to kind of find that emotion again, find that intensity after exiting Ironman with those championships had to be difficult. And I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call. I think they both left there a little bit angry, a little bit embarrassed about their performance in Charlotte, and you could see that bounce-back type performance there in Chicago.
Yes, but let's get into the details now. Probably the hottest story coming out of this is the odd Jett Lawrence wave by to let Ken Roczen win the second moto. It didn't affect the overall as far as Jett was concerned. He was still going to win the overall anyway, but this is still a rider who we just watched win every single moto. Title-wise, he didn't have to, but he wanted a perfect season in Pro Motocross. So this was super puzzling. It wasn't a bike problem. He said he was trying to do some math and maybe shove Roczen between Sexton and the overall to help him in points. This was really bizarre, and I know you and I actually have different opinions on this.
Yeah, this is going to be the most talked about subject of the week, no doubt, as we lead into the finale here. And I don't know that we're ever going to get, the truth on exactly what happened, right? Will Jett ever tell us the, have clarity on his thought process? My opinion is that I think Kenny was really pushing the pace, and the track was really difficult. It was a little bit darker than a typical Supercross environment. It had the dirt was really dark as well, which exacerbated that. And you look at the pace when they were able to pull away from Chase Sexton, they were on the edge. And I don't think Jett really felt comfortable there. And I believe that once he figured out that he could get the overall win either way, I think he just let Kenny go. And obviously there was a wave by, but I think it was more of, hey, I don't need to win this particular moto to still get the overall. It won't change anything in the points. I don't need to push the edge here, because if I go over the edge and I have a crash, a big crash because of this, that could be catastrophic. So I think he just relented. And Kenny was the better of those two on that particular moto. I believe Ken Roczen didn't get the respect and the credit that he deserved for how fast he was going. And now Kenny feels slighted by it. I think he's very disappointed in how Jett handled it, not only on the podium, but also in the press conference. And now, he's going to have to deal with an angry Ken Roczen, who's probably more motivated than ever to go into Los Angeles. So it's a very interesting wrinkle to a lot of racing that was already very interesting.
Yeah, when Jett adds on the podium that it was a gift for the new dad, Ken, I think that Ken says, I don't need your gifts. I think I could have beat you straight up. Now you make it sound like I could have never beaten you unless you handed it to me. So I don't think Kenny's happy about that, because he was riding well. So that just adds to the drama going into LA. Here's your updated standings in the 250 class. Have not talked about this enough. Hunter Lawrence, thanks to the double points, bounces all the way back to have a slim lead over Joe Shimoda and Hayden Deegan, but too slim. It's essentially going to be winner take all, which we'll talk about later. But right now, Hunter is back on top with that bounce back that he needed.
Yeah, I love the way this is playing out. And I don't know, how much thought was put into this. Like, did they have a guy like Quentin Fowler walking through the math? But man, it is setting up so nicely to have this one race, one night shootout. Of course, it'll be two motos, but it's going to be this 250 class as well, a winner take all type dynamic where it's all on the line, right? $500,000 just being paid out from the organization. That's not even counting all the sponsor bonuses. So there is so much to play for. Ricky Carmichael, if he was on this show, he would tell me it's not about the money, it's about the pride. I don't know. I think it's about both. I understand his point, but for a lot of these 250 riders, they're not multimillionaires yet, right? They are still on their journey towards hopefully where they end up, and they're an elite 450 rider and financial security. They're still forging that path. So winning something like this, not only for their career, but their financial future, this is a huge, huge moment.
We have seen races with less money on the line that count for less. They don't even count for titles in the offseason, where riders did crazy things to make $100,000 or $250,000. This is $500 if you win, and $250 for second. So yeah, they're going to go for it this weekend. Ken Roczen, one of the veterans of the game, now a dad for the second time. He had the baby, well, Courtney, his wife, did on Wednesday. I feel like when we saw Kenny Friday morning at the press conference, he looked tired to me. Did you sense that on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough to assume that, right? I would imagine he was doing a lot of daddy duties, holding the family together there as Courtney was recovering. But I also thought it was really important for him that he mentioned he's able to now focus on one thing, right? He had so many things going on. And I asked him that question at the press conference. He's like, no, you just have to focus. Like this is too big of a deal, too big of a moment. I have to just lock in. And Ricky Carmichael mentioned that in the broadcast as well, because Ricky, remember, he had his two twins the night before the Orlando Supercross of 2007. And then he came in and gave us one of the best performances against James Stewart that I think we've ever seen, one of the most historic nights of Supercross ever. So there's something about that. I'm sure the pride that Kenny was boasting, right? His heart was probably exploding with emotion and adrenaline on the backside of that. And I think we saw that on the racetrack. So whatever he's doing, maybe they need to keep adding to the family because Kenny's riding better than ever.
Let's show you the SMX points going into this finale. It's between all three of them. Remember, it is triple points. So at a normal race, there's a 3-point difference between a win and a second. There will be a 9-point difference. We'll get into that in detail. But bottom line is, Roczen's in it just as much as Sexton and Jett are going into LA.
Yeah, it's super close. And I think Kenny is on a mission for respect. I think, we forget about how long Kenny has been the guy, right? He was expected to go on this huge championship winning streak, and we've all looked at him as one of the most talented riders worldwide. And he's been out of the spotlight a little bit this summer. And I don't think he liked that very much. He came in and gave us a great performance at High Point. But I think this whole Super Motocross World Championship playoff for him has been about reestablishing himself and showing everyone, including us, that he can still win at this level and he can beat whoever it is. Jett Lawrence, Chase Sexton. I don't think he cares what the name on the back of the jersey is. He's out to prove that he can still be that guy.
Okay, here's the track he'll have to do it on. This LA track everyone assumes will be more supercrossy compared to Chicago. What were your thoughts when you saw this track map?
I just thought it was a reversion back to Supercross. And the more I've looked at it, it really feels like what the Monster Cup used to be like. There will be some fast sections, but it will feel like a Supercross race to a lot of the riders. It won't have the Supercross whoops that Monster Cup didn't have either, right? And that's how we attracted some of the MXGP guys is bring them in because they don't have to deal with that whoop element that is so difficult to learn. So to me, we're going to have the biggest stage, all the stars, the biggest broadcast team, all these things. But the track, when they lock in, I think it's going to feel very much like the Monster Cup was. And it'll be interesting to see if a lot of those guys go back to a setting that maybe they had from a Monster Cup, right? Can those technicians go back to their logs and say, what worked at the Monster Cup? What gave these guys the most traction and the most comfort at a track like that? So maybe that's something they could use as a little bit of perspective.
I think back to Monster Cup, that's kind of where Jett Lawrence and the whole donut thing was born. He won the amateur all-star race there a long, long time ago, put himself on the map, and then offered the AMA official who gave him the championship plate some donuts. So yes, they all do have experience, even though that race was a couple years in the rearview mirror. But the stakes are a lot higher now, and as we said, in both classes, it is essentially winners take all in both divisions. So I think we're going to need some data on this. Come on out and join us in person. If you can't, here's how you can watch. Of course, Peacock and the Super Motocross Video Pass have everything live. Race Day Live starts at 4:30 Eastern. Our pre-race show at 9:30 Eastern. We'll go racing at 10 Eastern on Saturday. The racing portion at 10 will also be shown on USA Network. And there'll be an encore on NBC at 4 o'clock on Sunday to get all the eyeballs on this incredible winners take all event.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.